Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to poofcast episode 6. Today it'll just be me. Um, I'll be talking about closure today. But before I get into that, I wanted to talk more about our little Instagram giveaway. So, on the last episode of the podcast, I talked about how we reached 50 followers on Instagram, and so I was going to be doing a giveaway. The prizes will be a Switch Lite, a $50 gift card, and a $25 gift card of your choice. So if any of that interests you, go ahead, go to the Poofcast page, like the post about the giveaway, comment your favorite episode under the giveaway post, and follow the page. And for any more information on additional entries and how to better your chances of winning, you should just need to read the description of the giveaway post. And also, I wanted to say that during the month of December, I plan to upload 2 podcasts a week. So I'm thinking the days are going to be Wednesday and Friday, but don't hold me to that because it may be, I don't know, one week I may want to do Tuesday and Thursday. One week I may want to do Wednesday, Saturday, or Friday and Saturday. I don't know. I'll try my best to, have 2 podcasts for you guys every week, and they won't be like super long. It'll just be kind of short ones like I've been doing. And before I start talking about closure and everything, I wanted to apologize for the hiatus and how I've been like not active on any of the social media accounts or anything, and like how I've just been kind of like the Poofcast page has been kind of dead silent since the giveaway. And that was just because school and life has just been like really overwhelming for me recently. And with Jenny not being available for the podcast recently, it's just been a little bit harder than it needs to be. And I don't want to give you guys some half-baked podcasts. So I decided to just start doing shorter ones that are just me by myself until Jenny lets me know she's ready to come back. So I hope you guys enjoy what I have in store for you this month. And without further ado, let's start talking about closure. So closure is the first big step you have to take after a breakup. It's not always instant. Sometimes it is. It's basically when you're accepting that the relationship is over or accepting the conclusion of the relationship, kind of figuring out where things went wrong or what you could have done better, and trying to grow from those mistakes of that relationship. It's also when you gain clarity and a peace of mind from the previous relationship, and where you kind of learn to be a better person altogether so you don't carry those same mistakes into your next relationship. And with closure, it's really easy to say that you'll never gain closure, or if you do have what you think is closure, you can say, oh, I don't really need to, focus on my last relationship anymore. I'm over it and everything. But you could still be harboring feelings from that relationship and not know it, or you could still be affected by that last relationship and not be able to see it clearly because you just want to move on quickly. And I wanted to start off by saying, be patient with the closure process. Like I said, it's not always instant, and if you try to rush through it, you could be doing more damage to yourself than like taking it as it comes. Especially with longer relationships, it could take a lot more to unpack and kind of move on, but it's worth it to sit with everything and work on it rather than just keep trying to be like a train and just chug along. And you don't always need the other person in the relationship to gain closure. Like, you can find ways to do it on your own. Like, one thing I've done to try to gain closure from my last relationship, I'm still kind of struggling with that, is just kind of thinking back to some things that I could have done better, some things that she could have done better, and kind of using that to work to be better in my current relationship, and knowing what are some of the warning signs and red flags that I should look out for, and uh, just kind of thinking about what I will and won't accept from someone, because I know that if something happens this way, then it could lead to this, or if something happens another way, it could lead to that. And although, I just said that I'm still kind of struggling with closure and I'm in another relationship, uh, you should probably get closure out of the way before you decide to try to move on, because you don't want for you to be in your next relationship and all you're talking about is your ex, or all you're talking about is how your last relationship damaged you a lot and everything. Like, some people can accept it and are okay with that, but other people have less patience for that. And you could miss out on something good if you're focused on the past, or you could end up putting more stress on your partner or a potential partner uh, if you still have a lot of unresolved issues that you're working on. And I know it's not always possible to gain closure before you move on, but you should at least give it an effort to try to kind of get on with that before you move on. It'll just be better for you overall, I guess. Also, some ways that you can get closure when you're kind of talking to the person still, like the person you broke up with, so your ex. uh guys can kind of just sit down and just have a talk about where things went wrong, and you can kind of just be honest with each other, maybe more honest than you were in the actual relationship, because you were worried about hurting their feelings, or you were worried that something else was happening. Like, that's one of the reasons why I like to stay in contact with my exes, or maybe not stay in contact with them, but kind of leave the door open to talk if I need to. Uh, I just would like to always be able to go back and talk to them about where I could have improved, or what kind of led to what ended, because I'm not perfect and I'm always looking for ways to be better. I don't want to stay stagnant and end up like just never improving or being better than I can be, and always making the same mistakes. But if you're able to keep in contact with the other person, it's a good thing to be able to um, talk to them and be honest with them, and kind of address problems that you guys had. Uh, Talk out some problems that may have not been resolved in the initial breakup. You know, maybe you guys realize that something that you didn't think was that much of a problem was a bigger problem than it was, or maybe you guys found out that something that you did think was a problem wasn't as much of a problem, or somewhere where you may have thought you were right, you realized you were wrong, or anything along those lines. It's just always good to kind of get to the bottom of the problem and try to face it head on, than to try to figure it out or sloppily kind of work through it. And when you're also talking with this person, you guys may realize that, the problems that you had weren't that important, or it was just like a small thing that kind of blew up, and you feel like you can work past it with them. And if you feel like you want to, fix things up and get back with them, then that's on you. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, because in some cases people break up for dumb reasons and they realize it, and then they end up getting back together. Some people break up for some serious reasons and they understandably can't get back together. But it's just important to kind of like have a conversation with the person you broke up with, as like, if they're still around, if you can still reach out to them, talk to them. It's important to talk with them, because there's like no better person to talk with about it. unless that person's like really bad and it would put you in like harm's way to talk to them, right? So now I'm gonna try to give you guys some, I guess, more specific tips or like more understandable tips of how to get closure and how to deal with, breakups in general. Um, so I just want to start off by saying that, as silly as it may sound, you're kind of grieving right now. Maybe not over like a dead person or it's like a dead thing in general. It's like the end of the relationship. You have to go through it the same way that you go through processing like an actual death. But understand that you're grieving and it's not going to be an instant, oh, we broke up 5 days later, I'm fine. And even if you feel like it's taken a little bit long for the breakup, it's still important to go through with like the grieving process, because if you kind of rush through it, you'll just have egg in your face later when you realize, you're not really over it or you didn't really get through it. Um, Another thing you should try to do is to, you know, focus on yourself and try to build yourself up. Like I said before, it's good to realize where you may have gone wrong in the last relationship or what you may have accepted that you don't want to accept. And it's important to use all of that energy and all of those thoughts and things into building yourself up and making yourself into a greater person. Uh, it's also good to, if you're still holding on to like stuff that they gave you, like a love letter, like a jacket, a blanket, uh, maybe they gave you something that was really sentimental to you, it's good to throw it away. And if you're not going to throw it away, at least put it somewhere where you're not going to constantly be in contact with it, or you're not going to constantly be like seeing it, because that'll just remind you of them and kind of put you back into the same loop of, oh man, this is like actually over, and then like sadness about that if you're sad about it. um and as easy as it is to kind of want to give up on yourself or feel like, you'll never find happiness or love again, or it's like impossible to move on, you have to keep your head up and kind of keep faith in yourself. You don't want to like uh you don't want to like down yourself more than you have to, because the more you bag on yourself and the harder you are on yourself, like the harder it will be to pick yourself back up. And if you're dogging on yourself and you're not respecting yourself or looking on the bright side of things, then you could like make it harder for people to respect you and treat you the way that you believe you should be treated or the way you want to be treated, right? I said that in the last episode too, if you guys have been paying attention. But also, I said before to try to talk to your ex about the breakup if you can. You don't always have to talk to them about it. It is, well, I think it's pretty good to talk to them about it, but you can also talk to your friends and family about it so they can kind of help you digest things and, maybe get a different perspective than you may have just thinking about it yourself. It's always good to have a good support group. Um, so you can have people to kind of help pick you up when you're feeling really down if you can't do it yourself. Uh, it's also good to kind of allow yourself to like experience the emotions that come with a breakup. You don't want to just like suppress sadness because you feel like you've been sad too long. Like I've been saying the entire episode so far, closure doesn't happen instantly. It's not going to be something that you just flick like a light switch to where you're feeling okay again. It's a process. And so if you try to speed up the process, it can lead to damage down the road. You don't want to rush through gaining closure and dealing with the end result of a breakup really fast, because it'll just put you in a cycle of going through the same pain and not really fully accepting what's been happening or whatever. And eventually it'll catch up to you, and you'll have to deal with way more than it would have been if you kind of let it happen naturally. Uh, I know it's easy to kind of get into the mindset of, I hate my ex, fuck my ex. My ex was a shitty person. I never want to see them or talk to them again. I never want to think about them again. I never want to blah, 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 blah. All of that. Uh, and that's okay, because, sometimes there are things that you feel are unforgivable, or, things that are like unredeemable, and you don't think that they'll ever come back from doing whatever they did to you. But it's important to kind of let go of some of that anger at some point, because even if you never talk to this person again, or you never see them again, as long as you're constantly in that state of fuck them, fuck them, fuck them, you're not going to be able to move on, because you're like always thinking about what happened, and rather than accepting it and moving on with life as it is, you're just kind of stuck in the past with what happened to you. And like I said, sometimes it can be hard to do that because it was like a really serious thing, or maybe like me, Byron, am not thinking of like some very serious situations. But if you feel like you're holding resentment towards your ex or someone, or maybe even holding resentment towards yourself for, your wrongdoings in the relationship, you have to just kind of let it go at one point, because it's hard to move on if you're constantly thinking about what went wrong in the past and how bad it was. So to kind of close out of my tips and everything, just remember that it's important to kind of let the process happen at its own pace. You don't want to rush through everything. Uh, Understand that you're kind of grieving, and it's not just uh, like, even though it's silly, you're grieving, you're kind of dealing with accepting that the relationship is over. Something that meant a lot to you is no longer a thing. Uh, you know, work on forgiving or accepting the end of the relationship or the wrongdoings in the relationship, whether it be from you or your ex. Uh, find a support group that can help keep you up even when you're feeling at your lowest. Uh, you know, no matter how much you feel like you did bad or you could have done better, remember to respect yourself and to hold your head up, because it's hard to kind of move on if you don't feel like you're worth like moving on, or you don't feel like you're capable of it. Uh, Keep faith in yourself. Eventually, you will be able to move on. You will love yourself. You should love yourself. And, it'll eventually happen if it doesn't happen right away. And before I kind of sign off on this episode, I just wanted to leave you guys with some media that you can consume to kind of help you get a better idea of what closure can look like, or, um, you know, just like hearing other people's experiences with closure. Uh, so if you have Netflix, I'd suggest to watch the movie Someone Great. Um, it's a pretty good movie, and it's about a woman who is going through a who just broke up with a long-term boyfriend, and it kind of just has her sort of accepting the end of the relationship. And at first she starts to look at all the positives and stuff, and then she realizes, oh, there was also some bad stuff. And even though she's kind of a mess in the movie, she eventually gets to the point of accepting the relationship and being able to, accepting the end of the relationship and being able to move on with her life. uh I'd suggest this movie for people who like kind of, I don't want to say romance movies, but it's somewhat of a romance movie. Uh, the only thing that may stop some people from liking it is that the main character is Gina Rodriguez, and I know she can be like a controversial person to some people. Uh, I don't really have any sort of opinion on her, but I know some people do, and so if you don't like Gina Rodriguez, then maybe this movie isn't for you. There's also the TV show Insecure has two episodes with uh, one that has kind of a scene about closure. One has an episode dedicated to finding closure, although it kind of ends with not closure, I guess. But the episodes, Hella Perspective, which is season 2, episode 8 of Insecure, is the end of it has the main character and her long term boyfriend kind of apologizing to each other for what they did wrong in the relationship, and, accepting that that was the end of the relationship and moving on to the next chapter of their life. Uh, and then in season 4, episode 8, they kind of reconnect with each other and talk about what went wrong in the relationship again, but maybe more in depth now because they're more mature and they kind of had some time to sit on it and realize some stuff that they didn't realize before. Uh, and and lastly, I'll leave you with some music choices to kind of help you deal with closure, or maybe hear about closure, I guess. There's a song called Conversations in a Diner by Division, and it has him talking to a former lover about, kind of accepting the end of the relationship, maybe holding the door open for a second chance or whatever. But I feel like it's a good representation of what closure can be. Also, Snow Allegra has a song called Charlieville 9200 Part 2, and it has her singing about a past lover and realizing some of the bad stuff that happened and just reflecting on the relationship and moving on from it. Kalani has a song called Footsteps featuring Music Soul Child, and they're both kind of reflecting on a past relationship and uh, realizing that it may not have been like perfect, but it was what it was. And they also kind of leave that door open like Division did. Uh, there's a song by the Free Nationals and Benny Sings called Apartment, and it's about finally being able to move on and start the next chapter of your life. Uh, there's a song by Bryson Tiller called Things Change, and it's about him kind of maybe in a more aggressive way giving closure to his ex. It's not like a perfect example of closure, I guess, but it works in the context. And there's also Party Next Door's Savage Anthem. That song has him sort of talking about some of the bad things he did in his last relationship and telling the girl, like, hey, I did all of this bad stuff. Maybe you should move on. Maybe don't, like, wait for me. I'm not good for you. Which is closure in a way, because it's kind of admitting you're wrong or admitting that this isn't the best for her and everything, and telling her to kind of move on. And I'll leave a link to the songs and the movie and the episodes I mentioned in the description. I'll probably make a playlist for the songs, I guess. But if you guys have any songs or TV shows or movies or anything about closure that you want to share with me, share with the other listeners of the podcast, just comment it down below on whatever platform it is. I'll kind of try to add songs to the different playlists as people recommend them, or I'll post about the TV shows and movies people mentioned as I get them. And yeah, so like I say on every episode of the podcast, thank you for listening. I really appreciate you guys supporting me. Be sure to, like the episode if you liked it. Maybe tell me why if you didn't like it. Tell me why you did like it if you did like it as well. So feedback. Share this episode with a friend that may be struggling with closure, or a friend that may, need some help moving on. Also, follow us on our social media pages. It's pretty much poofcast on everything except for YouTube. I believe it's Byron TV. And I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys can kind of get closure from your relationships if you need it, or you can move on and not focus too much on the past. It's good to have some peace of mind from some stressful events or some things that may be hard to kind of deal with. Anyways, this is pretty much it for the episode. Love you guys and see you on Friday.